I don't know if you've heard of this thing called AI, but it's pretty big right now. So we're going to talk about how can AI fortify supply chains in a volatile world, because we're still in that risk and resilience part of the conference. Now, joining me is a fantastic panel. I want to introduce Sharif Hafez, Supply Director, Middle East and Africa at Mars. I'd like to introduce Paulina Schmilaz, Industrial Operations, Digital and Innovations Director at JLR. A warm welcome to Maha Al-Kabi, Advisor to Group Chairman, Independent Board Member at Al-Sakar Group. Next, a warm welcome to Amit Katiyar, Head of Procurement, Lipton Tea and Infusions. And last, but definitely not least, Shabir Ali, Logistics Operations Director, Mayor at Schneider Electric. I got through it. Wonderful. Right, let's jump in. Sharif, can I start with you, please? I want to ask about AI's role in risk management. What's the potential? Does it have potential? Is it going to solve all of our problems when it comes to risk management?
No, thank you. Thank you, John. I think the short answer to your question is definitely yes. It has a huge potential, and that's what we're starting to explore, and I believe that we're still in the early days. But before we go there, I think it's very important that we realize how the factors impacting our supply chain have changed over the past few years, where historically there was a lot of focus on cost and efficiency in building our supply chains. I could source product from the cheapest place. I could ship it, long distances. Freight was reliable, available. But this is changing. We've seen the impact of geopolitical tensions, port congestions, pandemics, you name it. And that's why it's very important now that we redesign our supply chains, putting in a big focus on supply security, on supply chain resilience, to be able to protect our business. And this is where AI and applications like digital twin, like data analytics come in to help us redesign and reshape our end-to-end supply chain to build in the more resilience, the more predictability. We always say we cannot predict everything and anything that can happen externally, but what we can do is build the flexibility, build the resilience within our supply chain to be able to respond. And here is where AI and applications, as I was saying, like digital twin and data analytics and so forth, can help us build this resilience in our supply chain networks.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to unpick and unpack that a lot, but thank you so much. Amit, can I come to you when we're preparing for this session? You had some case study, you had some examples. Like, again, you're seeing some potential, some use cases of AI helping to deal with risk management.
So already today, I handle procurement. We see that use cases of AI are already visible there. For example, if you have to do a supply market assessment, so you can go to chat and you can ask them to give the first cut of the supplier portfolio which is available in the outside world. Now, this information is fed from the external world. For a normal person, if he starts with this category manager, will take like 7 days to 10 days to build up all this. But this happens in a click of a button today. And then you can build on that. So this is definitely adding value from the perspective for associates to be responding faster. And the scenarios where we need resilience in terms of option evaluations, everything happens faster when we're talking AI, because once you have the pool of data, the analysis is much, much faster versus a human.
Absolutely. We want to come back to the challenges in a moment in the second half of this conversation. But there's some nods. There'll be some healthy debate in a few minutes. But Mahak, you've been around a long time doing this sort of work. I want to ask you about some examples, but I also just want to drill down. Is there a difference, when someone like me asks the question, is there a difference between Gen AI and AI generally? Because AI has been around procurement supply chains for a long time. So in your experience, which you have a lot of, is Gen AI, does it have the potential, or is it AI broadly that's been around a long time that has the potential for risk management?
Again, the short answer is yes, but I'll try to echo what we were discussing just in the roundtable in the DB world.
Yep.
We need to segregate problems when it comes to predictability, things you can predict, things you cannot predict. So for example, all the shocks that we have witnessed, like the pandemic, the Red Sea thing sometimes, and many other things, the geopolitical situation, the wars that you have, these are unpredictable things because they are dependent on people taking decisions, something to happen. Although we've seen enough wars in our lifetime in the last 100 plus years, 20 years, but it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen next with that thing. But what we can predict and control is the normal scenarios we see. So in risk management, you always have 4 quadrants. So you know the known unknown, unknown known. The most challenging thing is the unknown, which you don't know, which we talked about. So what is it, just to decipher some of things, for people to be aligned with us, if you have scenarios already occurred in the past, i.e. the data has been captured, then the model which we build will be able to predict, saying that, okay, this is the likelihood of the of occurrence of this information because we see the trends, and accordingly they'll predict. That's it. It cannot do anything else. So that's the first level of AI. There's 7 levels of AIs. We're living the poor AI level. It's called poor AI level. The ChatGPT, where we talk about, it's called the poor AI level. So we're not yet in the AGI, which is theoretical, where the computers or the model will think beyond the human being. And then you have super AIs and many other things. So what do you do? When you have this data sets, you have to feed the data set with new information coming in for the predictability to be accurate and so forth. We can dwell more into it, but this is the overall framework when you develop something.
Right. We're going to come back to this as well. Before I come to Paulina, it should be from your perspective, do you agree with these examples? Is Gen AI also a step forward in risk management, or is it the AI systems more broadly?
Again, the answer is yes. And complementing to what Maha and other panelists have mentioned, I mean, we have real life examples as well that's happening. Again, not to the level of the 7 level that Maha was mentioning, but again, in Schneider Electric, a global supply chain, I can quote an example that we are using it. It's the program we were working on it since 2016, where we built our own proprietary, what we call the end-to-end control tower. Now, it's a fascinating tool because it gives you the domestic and international data coming from the lead logistics and transport provider. So once you have the visibility of the data sets, then it allows you to take proactive action and even mitigate when the disruptions are happening. So again, a fascinating tool, just one example to quote.
Absolutely. Now, Paulina, in my conversations over the last year or so, I get the impression when I think about Gen AI, we're very much in the experimental phase. If anyone says they've got it totally worked out, I think they may be pulling our legs a little bit. But how are you, in your experience, how are you viewing the potential for AI to fortify our supply chains?
Right now, we approach this also in a very experimental way. Still, in our business, our employees are much more accurate than the algorithms. And this is where we're at. We run 2 parallel worlds in which we work on educating and improving the algorithms. And at the same time, we merge it with the human in the loop. And we still control stage by stage where it is. But still right now, for the benefits of the business, as well as for safety of our customers, we ensure that all the insights in the business decision-making is 100% confirmed by our organization and not the algorithm itself. So, Paulina, again, you said you were experimenting. Do you feel like there's a fair way to go, particularly on the Gen AI side, not AI broadly, but do you think there's a fair way to go before we truly see the benefits of Gen AI in managing risk in our supply chains? It feels like there's a few steps to go before we get there. Yes. If you imagine just the situation, and I believe everybody who experiences the disruptions of the supply chain goes through, and you take under consideration all of the events that even happened to us in a couple of last years, and if you analyze how many data points you needed to have in order to actually algorithm understand and pick it up, you would have to spend a decade mapping all of that data in order for algorithm to be helpful. So every business, we have to make a decision how much I'm going to manually collect the data, and what's more important, how much investment I'm going to do in validating that data. Because just because I collected it, and we know we've spent a lot of experiments collecting data with Gen AI, and we know how inaccurate it is right now. And this is what I'm seeing. I could spend a decade manually improving that, or what are the tricks I can do and I can use with other technologies, with multiple organizations coming together to reduce those decades into maybe a year? Absolutely.
If I can...
jump in and then I'll come to Shrip, please.
Just as an example, one of the products that we wanted to procure, and we do it constantly, let's say the tire businesses we are very big at in the UAE business, what we did, we wrote down all the scenario analysis, what we used to do manually. So we wrote the scenario analysis saying that if there's a disruption from these countries, what are my alternatives? Now, as the list grows, because you have huge amount of data, it's going to be time consuming. You'll do it eventually, but it's going to be time consuming. But when you throw it and you build it in the model will automatically tells you, okay, this is the way to go in split of seconds. But take the contrary opposite. We also supply trains, by the way, in the country. And the supply of the trains is only from US. The locomotive comes from Progress Rail. And if that gets disruptive, no scenario analysis will work. We bring wagons from China, which is a CRC company. If that supply disrupts, which had happened, we could not bring the wagons in that case. So depending on the situation and how do you automate the work.
But can I just dig into that a little bit? When I think about generative AI, and the gentleman also mentioned sort of the quality of the data that goes in. How much training for someone in this room to take advantage of a system?
Sure.
How much data of your own data, your partners, your suppliers, previous scenarios, disruptions, as the gentleman have mentioned? There's a lot of work that needs to go in for an individual organisation here to get the benefits of this potential technology.
Every organisation almost sits on zillions of data, okay? And the industries which have the highest number of data, excluding the government because they monitor you, it's the financial industry. So if you buy something from Amazon, they only get to know what you bought. But if you do with a transaction with financial institutions and intersect it with the search engines you have, these two institutions have so much amount of data. So the short answer is, as much data you give me, the more will be so much refined. With data protection being there, then that's mean I have less data. My predictability get impacted from that perspective. So we used to get data because we were spent in my previous organization over 100 countries. So we used to get zillions of data on a daily basis. And because there was no GDPR at that point of time, so we get all the data and we could actually safely predict what every single client and customers would like to do next. So we could actually do a bespoke marketing, which we still can do it for a lot of organization. So as much data you give me, as much I'll be predictable on what you want to do next.
Right. Let's keep going. I just want to play the pessimist or the skeptic because it's more fun, right? It's more fun to play that. Sharif, people in your roles are not going to go on Claude or the open source, ChatGPT and say, listen, if something kicks off in the Red Sea, what's my alternative strategy? That's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be a system you build yourselves or you buy one internally, bring it in, but then train it. I mean, I know you all, I'm full of admiration for the job you all do and the scenarios and everything you do, but is Gen AI genuinely helping you at the moment?
Yeah, so I think, again, depending on, different companies are at different levels of progress.
Yep.
It is becoming a key element, yes, but I think we need to look at it from a bigger holistic picture. And I think from an angle of, again, what is the objective you're trying to achieve? You want to build resiliency, flexibility in your supply chain.
Yep.
You need to be able to not to be taken by surprise. It can't work that shipping vessel blocks Suez Canal for 2 days, the whole world goes on panic. This it's not sustainable. So this is where, as was discussed earlier, having multiple suppliers for your materials and so forth. Now, to build all of this, there are different elements. There is things like automation, technology, and Shabir talked about control towers, which I think is not a nice to have in today's world. It is critical. You need to have your full visibility across your end-to-end supply chain. You need to have things like data analytics, and there is a lot of talk about data. And I think this is very important because this is the foundation, if you want, making sure that you have the data that you have is consistently accurate, is accessible, and is standardized. So this is the starting point before being able to go and do some more work and data analytics and so forth. And then definitely comes the AI. Now, it is not a one-stop shop solution,
right,
yet at least, but it is definitely becoming, again, with things like digital twins and so forth.
So it plays a role.
It plays a role.
It can plug in to your other systems that you're using.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Pauline, I see you smiling. Is this making sense that AI is not going to be a one-stop shop? It's not going to solve all your problems, but it maybe plugs into your other systems that you use to manage risk?
Oh, absolutely. it's just one of the technologies we all have to use in this big ecosystem. We right now use Gen AI in very small, very dedicated areas, which is actually the topic of finding new categories of risk. Because let's all remember that top level of AI, it's creative, it's finding ways that we have not thought about yet. So if I want to train my basic AI that's managing my risk and identifies certain potential risk based on events in the world, I want to ask this AI, find me a pattern that has not been yet identified, and it will go creative. And this is in context of your previous question. We actually, in order to train the AI models, need to invent problems that have not happened yet. And that's when Gen AI can kick in. And this is where we should experiment with that. They might be absolutely ridiculous. And as a business management teams, we might say, hey, well, this will never happen to us. But then if it's in the model, why not? It actually may.
There you go.
I a bit differ on this, Paulina, sorry.
Do it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And this is based on my 34 years working on AI and building models myself, yeah? So we were doing predictive modeling. I mean, just to decipher again, we're not into AI yet, but it's a cliche. We like to use that word of AI. We're still into machine learning and deep learning. So whatever you kick into the model, the data set will give you exactly what is there. It's not going to predict the future for you. It's going to predict based on what you have over there.
Yeah.
It's not going to predict anything new for you. So we need to be careful what we use for terminologies. When you say predict something unpredictable, that's challenging. That's not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
sorry if I kind of break that.
No, listen, I like a bit of healthy debate. Listen, we're going to do an unprompted, unscripted public poll of people in the room. Assuming you're all in your business during COVID, who managed your supply chains, your procurement during COVID?
How many of you actually use data in your organization?
Not yet, not yet, not
Okay,
yet,
okay.
not yet. Not one step at a time, one step at a time.
Okay.
Who managed your supply chains during COVID period? You can put your hand up. You managed it. You managed it. And out of all you people, how many used Gen AI during the COVID period?
Oops,
See.
it was not there.
So, yeah, the reason why I want to be bringing a bit of skepticism here, I think it's fascinating, right? You all managed, and I have full admiration for what you did during COVID. That was without Gen AI. So what I'm really interested in, and I've heard these stories many times, you know, the business continuity plans, these are amazing. You were doing these things before Gen AI, right? So I'm just really interested in how the latest version of generative is sort of adding to what you're already doing, which is a pretty darn tough job. That was fun.
So-
Should be it. I mean, am I right to douse a bit of the flames, a bit of the hype around Gen AI, or should I get off my high horse?
I'll pick up from the BCP, that example
Yeah.
putting as well. I mean, before conventional BCP, we used to work on different scenarios, right? So for example, if there is a distribution center or plant that buys from a specific supplier. So what your BCP covers, okay, what if something goes wrong with the supplier? Do I have an alternate source? And that's typically covering different scenarios in the BCP. Now, if we talk about AI, Gen AI, yes, it's continuously evolving. But what we have today, it can simulate different scenarios, what you could have done it before. So for example, now, not just the one source, you can have multiple sources. Why? Because your different data coming from different countries and systems are connected. So you do not require a person to do the mapping manually. System can do it for you. We have one Gen AI use case is what we call an alternate product. So if any supply of the product has been affected, the system can predict to you what is the next source you can use to make sure you have a continuity of the supply. So again, just one example to quote.
Yeah. Amit, can I bring you in? I just want to pick up this data point, which I find really interesting, that these systems will benefit and need the data, the historical data. But I'm just curious about suppliers, partners. I mean, you're in a quite large organization, Amit, but will you be asking, will you be requiring, will you be working with your key suppliers to gather as much data as humanly possible to help your internal systems to deal with risks?
Yeah. So before that, just building on his point, right? AI still is in a nascent stage.
Yeah.
The baby is still in the cradle. Yeah. Through large language models, we are treating and giving them the safe havens to grow, and then they will be able to walk, talk, and then run eventually. Today, if I see, I'll go to an example from Netflix. And I always feel any technology is going to be prospering if it is a revenue generating technology. If it's just assisting technology, right now, all supply chain or finance or other functions are using it to make it faster. The work, what they're doing, scenarios faster, more deeper, more faster, which will take rather 10 days, 20 days when we do a normal course of an individual works. But now there can be much, much faster evaluation. And then you can take a quick decision with your boards and management. Netflix, what they have done, when you run a movie right now, and there is a Mercedes going, yeah, I'm not doing ad for anybody. And then you see a Mercedes ad down. Now, they just made a revenue model out of it. They imprinted the customer at the same time, in the same household, he's having his cup of tea or a coffee, and he's saying, oh, Mercedes, this is where I should be going. They made a revenue model. Till we are not generating these revenue models, till that point of time, AI is not going to launch. The baby is not going to walk. As simple as that. Today, I see big shift, and I see AI having that potential. Today, when we go and we see on the roads, there are multiple ads. Yeah, Almarai, Dubai, so many ads, banks, everything, right? And for these ads to happen, there are photo shoots happening. Now, these photo shoots, there are so many people who are working on this. This can go away in a click of a button. That's what AI can do today. So there are already agencies which are on ground working today who can make all those ads with all those famous models just on your laptop. Now, that's where the revenue is getting generated. You're optimizing the world, and those people can do some other work or which is more efficient. So I see the value addition is definitely there. It is how we approach and with what mindset we are approaching. The solution buildings are happening as we're talking.
If I can add an example, we are on a journey of building our own AI or predictive model, I should say, more appropriate on the waste management. We're into that business, and I'm doing my doctorate in the waste management and sustainability. So what we're trying to do, we've got like 12,000 food establishments within UAE. They generate certain amount of waste, which comes to fat and oil and grease. Now, we would like to access this waste faster, because if I do that thing with predictability, saying we've got 15 years of data now, so we know which hotel, which restaurant, which coffee shop, which labor camp produce what kind of waste at what seasonal factor as well. If I can access this faster, that's mean I'm able to do good to the environment in terms of reducing CO2 emission, methane emission, paper cuts, and so forth. So we're building that model, but it's still depending on the data sets that we have today. And I know that the journey has started almost 6 months ago. Already we're seeing that we need to fix the data first of all, because we had the data. But let's cleanse the data, let's make sure it is readable. But the most interesting fact to that, now that when we look at the data keep on shifting, i.e. the response of the food establishment are different. So I told the team, do you know why the responses of people being more responsive and giving you the waste faster? It's because of regulation. So now in the data set, you have to also add regulation. At what point of time, what regulation came in, made that people being more responsive. Then you complete the picture for you to do even better development from that perspective.
Interesting. Paulina, I want to come back to you. I really want to talk about people, humans. I'd like to think we have a future in this world. But you mentioned 10 minutes ago about, the importance of humans in the system. So I really just want to spend a few minutes and ask everyone. But Paulina, what are you looking for in your team? I can only imagine you want people who are maybe curious, who are more agile, who are able to learn new systems, able to experiment with new systems. But just when it comes to the human in your system, what do you require, or what are you looking for to try and take advantage of some of these technologies?
We built quite a cross-functional teams. It's not only about the people who technically have the skills and the knowledge. Actually, majority of the team comes from the business. We take them in, people who are experts in their fields in regular business operations, because one of the biggest things I've seen putting IT systems in companies for the last 2 decades is that business translation between the technical arm and the actual business users arm. If you think about a regular person operating your supply chain, they are a regular end user. They cannot just be put in front of this technology without any support, without any education, but also without any safety for them. And we bring in business expertise from the manufacturing plants, from supply chain, and we create the groups for business change and also for business translation, that expert on AI, that very often a young person that comes out straight of university can talk with an expert of supply chain that is there 30 years, and they can somehow have a common language. And only when those groups collaborate together, we get some useful results. We tried and test to put business people without that extra support in front of technology, and not even AI, but just general, regular, big IT systems. And they don't want to do it. It's not safe for them. It's not comfortable for them. And they are very scared that the results are just not true. And this is where the human in the loop behind any piece of technology or any insight, no matter if it's just analytics, which is still big right now. Actually, we are at the peak of analytics world. Is it any report generated? Every human being wants to question it because they didn't do it by themselves. And how do we go through that journey that they trust what they see and they trust what they interact with? So the teams are extremely cross-functional, from very standard IT through very advanced technologies down to trainers, user experience designers, and business people. And for us, it's a long story because we are not there in JLR to just turn around and drop new technologies on. We specialize in actually industrializing the technologies. Is it useful for our people? And some of it is very good and we can see very good journey, but I will be very honest, there are initiatives with the technology that just don't work for us. And the whole world talks about the fact that new technology, everybody's embracing it in the company. No, they don't. Maybe half, maybe the ones who were good with it or are comfortable with it. But we have to take care of the ones that don't embrace it. Why? And that's why the user experience and the introductions and the journey that those people go through is much more important than technology itself.
Well, please, Shabir.
Maybe just complementing. In Schneider, it's part of the company value, what we call an impact. Now it's abbreviation of different words. So inclusion, mastery, purpose, action, curiosity, and teamwork. So I take M and the C out. So master and curiosity. So master is about people who are experts in the business domain. And curiosity are the people, if I may define, people who are coming as fresh graduates with data scientists, data analytics abilities, sitting together and making it wonders. But again, you need to make sure the stakeholders are aware of the benefits and should not be seen as something coming as a job displacement for them, but rather it's a combination of human and AI that are going to work as a hybrid decision-making to make it work as well.
Listen, I think this hybrid decision-making is absolutely the key, right? So to ask you, Shabir, as Paulina said, the people who are not buying in, jumping in, are they worried about being replaced? What's do you think holding some people back from jumping in, even to experiment with these technologies?
That's true. People are worried because sometimes people confuse with the AI with the automation. So many aspects of the automation happen that basically becomes the reason for the job displacements. But at the same time, this technology has evolved many other facets of the job function which were not existing before. Now we're talking about data scientists. Where were the data scientists a few years back, right? Similarly, for other functions, it evolves in a way that you have other job functions popping up. So what's more important is you engage with the people, you engage with all the stakeholders to understand, can they be part of this ecosystem? Or can they be part of other system that is evolving? And again, it's very crucial to make them understand the benefit of it, not just talking about the sideways.
If I add,
to add.
Sharif, Amit, jump in and then I'll come to Sharif. Amit, please.
So on this only, for example, skepticism is already there because there's new technology, new things, and everybody is finding difficult to take the new road all the time. Yeah. But I say if you have a core skill, for example, in procurement, if you have a core skill of negotiation, then AI is a big enabler. Then you don't have to search for suppliers because AI will do that for you. You don't have to do what comparisons I did to this AI will do for you. What is your core skills? Procurement, negotiation, how to bring value for the organization. So if the teams are approached with this manner, that your core skill is this there and you're good in negotiation, what you do, then everything will be an enabler. So it actually widens their horizon and it offers them an opportunity for more growth And there can be seen a higher up in the organization as well.
Absolutely fascinating. Sharif, please.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important element because, you know, again, back to the use of AI, the technology that part is, I would say, relatively the easier part because, I mean, you can technically, you know, you can buy it in, you can get an external company to do it for you, you can. But I think the people element, and to add to what's been said already, the other big important that you need to have the team, your own internal team who is ready to adapt also for change. Because why are we doing this? We're doing this eventually to build a more resilient supply chain. And the use of AI and the output of that is going to force you to change some of the way you've been doing business for decades. And this is where we see a lot of resistance. And you need even to, you might need to go to even change some of the KPIs of some of your teams. I mean, a very simple example that was talked about, you know, today, you know, in the world of procurement, you want to give bulk volume to one key supplier so you get major discounts. Now we're saying this might not work anymore. You might need to, for the sake of supply security, split among different suppliers. But if you've been, you know, rewarding somebody for the past 30 years of their career on one KPI, and now you're telling them this is not going to work, this is where I think we need to evolve the whole organization to the change and to be able to change the way they've been managing some of their work, and in parallel also reward them and change the way they've been rewarded over the years.
Fascinating. Please.
If I can add that, I think we agree to all the points being mentioned, but take a step back. First of all, the answer would differ from the organization to organization. Yeah. So you've got the outliers, you've got people in between. The people in between, they are the 70-80% of the organization that they are resisting to change, which is the normal human culture. You don't want to change anything in your life because you're very happy doing whatever you're doing. So that's a normal thing. And you've got the outliers. So depending on the maturity level of the organization. So if I talk about my previous organization, we were present in 100 countries, we were developing models. The moment I say AI, in 1993, we were doing it, nobody will actually shed a blink or blink an eye. We'll get it done, and that's it, because nobody was thinking about that. We need to just get it automated. Now, when I talk about in the group side, sit as a board, various groups, even the UAE Circular Economy Council, the country is seeing it completely different. So what do I mean? It's all about culture. You have to build the culture before you say, I want to bring this technology. And I agree with Pauline, it's very important. Don't jump on the bandwagon of any disruptive technology. Maybe you don't want to even have a use case for that thing. And I keep on telling the minister the same thing. We do not want to develop this thing because the use case is not really there. Let's develop it this way. And he would say, yes, we agree with you after debate, of course. So he doesn't agree immediately. Okay, so you need to, first of all, work on the culture. And how do you build the culture? That's not the culture, what you call a forum over here, but very short. The organization is like, I call it as a spinal cord. You actually get senses from your limbs going back to the brain, or from the brain back to the lenses. You need to make sure that at every level of the organization, you have to have agent of change. Those agents of change will work for you. I'll tell you a couple of groups I worked with, and I took them on enough side just to work on the culture. And we talked about it, long story short, what are the things we need to change? Oh, we would like to automate some of the work we want to do because it's too monotonous. I said, fantastic, music to my ears, let's get it done. So we started just before COVID, and we kind of did an RPA and digitization for the entire journey of supply chain. Today, we don't even print anything. Imagine we were printing papers, and it's really actually from the floor of this conference room all the way to the roof, and now completely gone, and we automated the whole process. So working on culture, addressing their skill set, addressing their fears, it's a matter of a slowly. You cannot switch on and switch off. It takes time. It's a journey.
Absolutely.
In the tea industry,
jump in.
We buy tea on auctions, yeah, and that sitting in an auction room and bidding for a tea is an experience. Before COVID, many times we wanted to digitize that industry, wanted to do it, but there was resistance from the buyers. No, there will be no fun. We'll not have that smoke time, tea time, and this time, and the COVID came. And India and Africa, where most of the tea is sold in auction, and which is in weekly basis, everything got automized. Now everybody's sitting in their own offices, bidding for the teas, getting the teas as they want it. So the change is sometimes you build it, and sometimes God sends it.
Absolutely. But what I find fascinating is we're talking about an amazing technology, building upon other technologies, of course. But every time I have these conversations, it does come back to culture and people. I find that absolutely quite reassuring as well, but totally fascinating. Pauline, I want to ask you about trust. You mentioned trust earlier. So, if we get the culture right, and I have a view also that the individuals and the teams who get that combination of human and machine right, they'll win. But to build trust in these great new technologies, that means people might have to, learn some lessons. There might be a risk procedure that they said no to, and that turned out to be the right decision to say no to. There might be one that they take the advice of the system and it turns out badly for the organisation. How will trust be built when you get the culture and the teams right? How will trust be built so in future supply chain summits we're sitting here saying the whole team totally trusts it, everyone's on board, we're sweet?
It's a very long progressive journey. Imagine right now, every person here that runs supply chain arrives probably on a Monday morning in the office and they have their report of the results of last week. Do you trust that report? Do you know how it's been built? Do you know who did it? Who generated that report? Yeah. You trust it because you went through that journey. You practiced it with your team. You know where the data comes from. And you probably, through your work life, had situations where something wrong was in that report. Some data was not right. How did you handle that? So you know it. The only trick is nobody told you that maybe there was some AI in it or some processing, right? But you have your trust towards the data you operate with. And we're going to go through the same journey with AI, right? The same story was with analytics. There was this very big boom from manually generated report and then automatically and then insights. Was a very basic question in our organization. Who did it? And then you have to answer how the data got collected, how it got processed. You have to be extremely transparent and answer every question. And only when you exactly know how the algorithm was built, how it is generating the insights, that every piece of communication, insights to the people who are supposed to use it. And it's just step by step, but also the participation of your business units, being honest to them, saying, hey, these insights have been generated with the support of the algorithm we are building. Could you all please check it? Are they correct? That builds unbelief, that feedback loop into the people in your organization builds that trust level that, yes, I saw it, I'm comfortable with it. But that very important moment of engagement when they find a mistake, when they find an error, when they can contribute to this story, that's an unbelievable engagement loop that is 10 times more important, because what happens is if the people from your organization who have that knowledge and experience feedback into the technology where it is wrong or where they would like to improve it, what you're actually doing is you're collecting tribal knowledge from your organization and just documenting it into the algorithms. That is extremely important, because think about how much knowledge there is in each expert in your organization, and you don't have this technology yet to collect everything that sits in their brain. Not yet, at least.
That's probably super AI or HAI before that.
Exactly. But then when they, in those small moments of feedback, can provide some extra info, you're really collecting a lot of knowledge as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I am going to come to the audience for questions, and don't forget, at Economist Impact, we love honest, healthy debate. So please, you got hard questions? We love hard questions. I'll just have a couple more questions, but do get some of yours ready. Sharif, you mentioned before KPIs. Just quickly, I want to ask about shifting. You were talking about shifting KPIs. What are they shifting to, and is everyone bought into that shift? Because you talking about people who might be around 20, 30 years doing the one thing, but you're saying to them now, well, we've got these new technologies. The world's probably more complicated than it has been. Rather than those KPIs you've been achieving for 20 years, I'm now asking you to do this over here. Is that easy?
Well, it's definitely not easy, but I think it's very important is in big implementations or in big shifts like this that you take the team with you. As we said, the technology implementation is is the part that you can use a lot of external help on if you want, but it's about how do you apply it, how do you take it forward. And again, keeping in mind, that AI is not used for the sake because it's a cool tool or it's something new that everybody wants to use. What is the bigger objective? The bigger objective is building a resilient supply chain. That's what we're trying to achieve. And this requires that we do things differently. So I think it's very important that we take the team with us on the journey. And it's not just about, okay, we have this new tool, please go and learn it, and this is how it's going to change. I think we need to take, in the change curve, you need to take people with you, because you're right, this can have a big impact on people's jobs. Well, there is definitely a human element, but as we discussed about, new roles coming in and new roles and roles changing, so it is definitely having a big impact on the business, and this is where you need to take the people with you. So I think it is very important. We cannot ignore this. This is not just another, tool being applied and that's it. There's much more into it, definitely.
Yep. Fascinating. I love the talk of culture, bringing the team along, the feedback loops. This is all really important stuff. Now it's time for audience questions. Does anyone have any? Yes, we do. There's a question there and down here. Great. And there are microphones, I believe. We have a question there, and then we'll come here to the front.
Well, this group has been nice to ask questions. They've not asked questions in the previous panel. That's good.
Well, Rafat from Maersk, thank you so much for a very insightful panel. My question is actually reversing the title question on the screen. So, do you think AI might be a risk to the supply chain? And if the answer is yes, what areas could be under that risk? If the answer is no, why would you be so much certain that AI will never be a risk on the supply chain? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone would like to jump in? Please, Matt.
Sure. I mean, it's not a matter of being a risk or not. In everything we touch upon life, there's always a risk. I mean, you cross the road, there's a risk. But as long as you put the guardrails over there and you put the scenarios and you control them and you supervise them, you manage them. So we're in the business of managing risk, not eliminating risk. So there will be always risk, but you need to manage the risk. Short answer.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyone else want to jump in before we go to the next question? Paulina, yes.
In a very specific area of supply chain, we do foresee a bit of risk in space of forecasting and demand planning.
Which planning?
Always a risk.
Climate?
Demand.
Forecast and demand planning.
Absolutely. I think we had another question down here at the front. If we have a microphone. Coming around here, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, do you think currently the supply chain industry has the right capabilities to reap the impact of emerging technologies like AI and big data? How, I would say percentage-wise, how ready do you think they are?
It's an amazing question. Who wants to take it? I can answer that, but anyway, anybody else?
Go ahead.
Please feel free to start.
We're still nascent, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge today we have is the data transfer between transatlantic. Despite TPP being there, you've got US coming and putting out of that. So if you cannot transfer data, which your model is going to be built upon, then it's going to be very difficult for you to use the analytics or predictive modeling or AI model to make use of it. Of course, will there be use cases? 110% for sure. But you need to make sure that you put all the right algorithm over there. The government need to agree upon to making sure that the right data sharing mechanism are there in place so you can use it. The other issue is data privacy. Now, with GDPR being there, it's very difficult for you to share the data across. It's going to be very, very challenging. So there will be a challenging in building such models, but you will still be able to build something. It's how great it's going to be. It's all about collaboration between these governments. Once they're able to collaborate and they'll be able to get something, then you'll be able to build a good model out of that.
I think to build on that also, and I agree, it's still in the infancy days. I think the biggest challenge is about data and data, not just availability, but accuracy on a consistent basis, data security. And that's why we're seeing new roles that we discussed earlier around data scientists and so forth are becoming critical, because you need to build your model and you need to, this is an ongoing process. This is not a one-off. You're not going to build one model and that's it for the rest of your life. And that's why I think data accuracy, reliability, security is a key enabler to be able to accelerate use of AI moving forward. And this is, I think, where the bottleneck is at the moment.
Sure.
What I would encourage everybody who thinks, am I ready or not? is just try. Just try and test. There is no need to commit immediately to run it as part of your regular operations, but at least having your organization to try it, you will learn what it means, how to embed it in your regular processes, how to also get your organization start talking about it and experiment like in everything else in the world, right? And you can think about it as a simple, are you okay to try new food? Are you okay to see something, in entertainment that's not your regular thing? Just that piece of courage to try is your first step to check.
And just to be selfish, because I'm the moderator and I can do it, we're doing some research on AI readiness that'll come out at Davos in January. So do keep an eye out for some Economist Impact research on readiness. But selfishness over. We have another question here, please.
Thank you very much. This is Nabil Kharabji from Zajil Courier Services. A question to you, Maher, regarding the...
I knew it, you're going to answer it, but go ahead.
So adding to what Sharif's mentioned, that, evolving and start implementing the AI, it shouldn't be only the management, so everyone should be involved in that. So here in UAE, we can see a very fast-paced evolvement in technology enhancement. So I believe public and private sector should be working hand in hand to evolve that. Because, for example, talking about the supply chain and logistics, we cannot isolate logistics companies from customer clearance, for example. If there should be evolvement here, also there should be in the public sector as well. We're talking about gateways, seaports, airports, all of these government bodies should be evolving as well. So in your opinion, how do you think that the environment today in UAE is ready to adapt and to evolve with these changing and the alignment between the private sector and public sector?
Sure. Thank you very much, Nabil, for the question. It's an excellent question. And I think we're blessed that we're in UAE. Our leaders are actually in forefront in getting things done. The government is actually making it difficult for private sector to I had the benefit to work in Europe. The formula was opposite over there. So the private sector lead and government might follow, may not follow. So our ultimate vision is by 2031, we should be one of the leaders in AI when it comes to development. Now, narrowing down on your questions, these are multifaceted industries, although they are connected on the overarching things, but their work are completely different. So my advice is, which is exactly we adopt in one of the UAE Circular Economy Council we sit on, is how do we work with private sectors? Because we do not come up with things ourselves. We actually work with a subject matter expert on the respective policies that we want to work upon. So for that advice, I would say is for every single sector, try to improve the sector one by one, till you come to a common ground, and then you connect the dots together. But for that to happen, you need to definitely collaborate with the government. So for example, when government came up with a policy on blockchain, which is very, very important when it comes to AI itself, from having one truth single database, the government actually went locally, regionally, internationally, brought the subject matter expert, tell them, okay, how do we build blockchain over here? So Dubai today has 15 government services. The entire 1980 services that we offer is complete on blockchain. So you have one version of truth rather than having 15 databases. So start simple for all these people with the government and connect the dot on the bigger picture. I hope I answered the question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, we've run out of time. Please forgive me. So we will need to wrap up. I just want to say a massive thank you to our panelists. And don't take my skepticism as just, I'm not an AI believer or whatever. I just think it's, we have to get the balance right. I do think we're at the experimentation phase, and I'm really pleased to hear our great panel talk about the need of culture, feedback loops, bringing the team along. So again, in my view, for what it's worth, the companies and the individuals who get this combination right, who get the culture and the feedback mechanisms right, I believe will end up winning. Anyway, that's my view. Please join me.
Can I leave with one note? First of all, you had a very good, if I'm not mistaken, report done on AI a few months ago itself, and supply chain. The only things I want to leave you with, there are many other things, but the one point is, it's all about human intelligence, so HI, and it's all about AI, artificial intelligence. When you combine them together, you get the PI.
Thank you so much. I think that was our report, but go read it. Please join me in thanking the panel. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.